All right, welcome back. Well, today we're joined by a man with many caps, Prince Adetokunbo Kayode, CON. He's a senior advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, former Minister of Defense, and he is presently the President, Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning, Chamberlain. Thank you for having us.
Okay, let's start off with this matter that is out there in the news, the P&ID case involving Nigeria. Clearly, when that judgment came through on Friday, it elicited a lot of reactions, and it goes back several years, actually, and you may know a thing or two about it. Well, when you then saw and read the recent judgment, what were your thoughts at the time?
Well, I think there's a great reprieve for us. It gives us the opportunity to now present maybe our own side of the story, give us opportunity to have a second chance to present our case properly, and hopefully we'll get some reprieve because the impact of the award will be devastating. Will have devastating effect on our economy, and unfortunately for us, we have not gotten any iota of value from that contract. So that is where all over the world it is. The whole scenario is viewed with some form of skepticism that something definitely not correct. Something is not right there. So we have a chance now to seriously present our case, and I wish Nigeria luck. But something I take away from this is, and this is not only in Nigeria, in all over Africa, we need to take the issue of domestication of our commercial litigation very seriously. And we need to domesticate arbitration in Africa, in Nigeria especially. And at the Abuja Chamber of Commerce, we have set up the Dispute Resolution Center so that unless it is absolutely necessary, we should do all our litigation, all our dispute resolution, especially in commercial matters here in Nigeria and maybe in Africa. And secondly, we should also take litigation very seriously. When somebody takes you to court or to arbitration, you cannot be casual about it. You must be very serious about it. You must present your facts. Anytime the matter comes up in court or in the tribunal, you must be there. See, it's very, very important because sometimes the rules are not really very humane. The rules are very strict and rigid. And if you don't present your case as and when you may suffer seriously, as in this case. But we are hopeful now that something, at least something slightly better than what happened before will transpire right now.
So as it stands now, yes, we did approach the court to give us more time. So because, I mean, there were those who led to the impression that, oh, finally, we've got this reprieve, so we're off the hooks. No, so tell us, are we off the hook, or this just gives us more time to see whether or not we will pay, or you think that as things stand, given that judgment, some of the comments from that judgment, it looks as though we will get the clear eventually?
Yes, we have a reprieve, we have a chance, we have extension of time within which to challenge the award in the arbitration. We are not off the hook. In fact, the work is just about to start because we really need to present a strong grounds to challenge the award. Not only the ruling of the award itself, but the award of damages, because there are two different things. So we have the chance to do this. And this is something we must take very, very seriously. But from what has already been presented in court, we are obviously on the way to doing a good job of it, because I can see that a lot of effort was put in before we could convince the court that, yes, they should give us this second chance. So it is not yet uhuru, as they say, but we are on the way. But we must take it very, very seriously. The real work is about to start, because we still have to present a case to challenge the award as well as the award of damages.
Now, when you said earlier, in your first comment about this whole thing, you said, from your observation, it seemed that some things were not right. What were some of those things that you observed?
Well, as I said, the first thing is that we have this tendency to take at least from what we are seeing now, reviewing, going back the years, we have this tendency to take our arbitration, especially arbitration involving government, outside Nigeria. I mean, it doesn't add up. And what we have done, I haven't seen this challenge, what we have done is to, as much as possible, try to domesticate our arbitration here. Anytime government or the serious big companies or whoever you are involved in an arbitration, we should endeavor to domesticate it here. We have in Lagos, we have Lagos Court of International Arbitration, we have Lagos Court of Arbitration. In Abuja, we have the Dispute Resolution Center. And this is a chance for us to domesticate our arbitration here. That is one. And this, two, we don't need to be exporting our arbitration. I'm not saying that the fact that you are doing arbitration in London does not mean you will not get judgment. But it just makes sense that we should domesticate arbitration. That's one of the things I've observed. Two, I think that unless the Attorney General gives special dispensation, I think every arbitration should be in Nigeria. I mean, this is just a follow-up to the last point I made. And the second key issue is that government should take litigation and arbitration, any form of proceedings that goes to determine the legal status of a relationship. Government should take it more seriously. The provision of documents, support for the legal team is very, very key. We should take it more seriously, and I'm sure we have learned bitter lessons from our experience of the P&ID case, and going forward, we know that we must take litigation very seriously. There are quite a number of litigations and arbitrations awards that are all over the place now. Some of them by default because of whatever tardiness in the process of defense of some of these matters. And many of them because documents are not made available. Even if they're made available, the necessary follow-up is not done. So we must take our any proceedings very, very seriously. There are serious matters that can really come to really hurt this country or hurt all of us as individuals.
Just so one thing before...
things I think that we need to, going forward, yes.
Yeah, a number of issues you have already raised which we want to come to, but let me ask you quickly, is there anything wrong with the process from 2006, 2010 until now that could have helped us avoid all of this that we are having right now? The situation that we have found ourselves. Is there anything wrong with the process in its entirety?
Well, when you talk about process, okay, let's break it down this way. There was a change of government in 2015, and there was change of offices. New Attorney General came in. He needs to be fully briefed. Of course, when there's a change of government, change of party, you don't necessarily get that full handing over, and a proper briefing. So definitely, the change of government may have affected what really went on here. That is one. Two, generally, there's that general tardiness about litigation, especially when it relates to public institutions. There's just that general tardiness about it. Thirdly, you see, if you concede to a particular procedure, you must understand the dynamics of that procedure. For instance, arbitration is final and is binding, and there's no appeal. And There are timelines for doing different things. So you cannot just treat it like you treat litigation where there's opportunity for appeal, where you can filibuster maybe. Arbitration is slightly different. So we really understanding the processes is very, very important, and taking it very seriously. And finally, you see, arbitration, like other ADR, form of ADR, is now basic all over the world. It's the new way. I mean, in fact, it's the way that everybody now accepts to handle commercial dispute resolution. So we must reorientate ourselves about understanding of arbitration and the implication. And as I said, also seek to domesticate it so that we can all, because for instance, if you put all your, in Nigeria, most of government-related arbitration are done either in Paris or in London or somewhere else. It costs money. You need to get a visa, for instance, to go to London to do it. What if you couldn't get a visa? And it costs money to move people up and down. So why can't we do it here in Abuja or do it in Lagos, which would be easier for us? And I do not think that based on the doctrine of party equality, you can really, if you are the key person, like in the P&ID case, there's no reason why that arbitration should not have been in Abuja or in Lagos. But if you consider to put it in London, then you know that it costs money to go there. It costs money to move men and material up there. And sometimes you don't get your visa, as I said, or you don't get money to go, then you don't move on with the case. But there's a reprieve, again, because now we're doing virtual arbitration, so you could actually sit down here and do your arbitration online, whether the arbitration is based in London or so. So
all right.
gradually things are improving, but these are some of the things that I can observe, yes.
All right, if you could just shed some further light. I mean, when you talk about change of government or change of offices and documents not coming to people at the right time, you were in the thick of things at that time too, when the former AGF left and you came in, and at that point, some of these issues also came up. So are you trying to tell us something? Were you handed documents? Did people take documents away from you? No, what can you tell us? How did we get here?
Chamberlain, it's good for you to get your timelines. I was Attorney General for a very short period of time in 2010. I never heard anything about this matter. I don't know anything about it. You know that if you look at the timing, I left. I was there for a very, very short period in 2010, early 2010. I don't know anything about it. But the point I'm making is this. Generally in Nigeria, when there's a change of government, we have not developed this process of proper handing over. Okay, when there's change of government, especially a change of party in government, the old, as they said, the old dispensation is swept away and a new one comes in. So sweeping away sometimes could mean that there will be no appropriate information being given to the new person, or so on and so forth. I'm just looking at it from that point of view, but I know that definitely the P&ID matter did not show the best of us, and I think we can do better going forward. But the important is to learn, to pick lessons from what has happened, because there will always be the cases, whether as government or as individuals or as institutions, we will always have disputes. So these matters will always come up. So pick lessons from it, and going forward, learn that when you have matters in court or in arbitration, you must take them very seriously, and you must. But first thing is that endeavor to get the best of it by domesticating it here, so that it will reduce your cost and the challenges of conducting.
If I can just ask you this one question, if I can just one moment, if I can just ask you this, there is a civil service, all right, and they are supposed to make sure that there is a continuum from government to government, irrespective of who is in office. There isn't supposed to be any such a problem as to say, okay, this matter got stalled because we had a change of government. There should be a system where, even if it's an executive summary or something, should that be, and should change of government be such a problem in a situation that we have, where we have systems that are working effectively? Should there be such a problem?
Well, you've painted an ideal situation. This is what we must aspire to. But we know, in fact, with or without change of government, our civil service is not that efficient. Our processes are not that efficient. And we don't need to deceive ourselves about this. We must continue to strive to get, not continue to strive, we must get the system to be smooth, to be working, and that flow must always be there. We must make sure we have that flow. But the civil service that I know, and that we all know, that still exists up to this moment, is not that efficient. With or without, even without change of government, you may still have issues locating documents, locating files, and so on and so forth. So, and I'm sure you know this. You know this. The system, and that is why people are now pushing to have technology, so that to put in technology into the processes of running the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy as it is now is not that efficient for you to insist that, because with or without change of government, there's a continuum. In theory, yes, there should be a continuum, but in fact, in reality, it doesn't work that way. Things are not really as efficient as they ought to be. That's the truth. So let us keep our eye on that and continue to strive to make sure that the system becomes better.
Right. So as we learn lessons and pick out discrepancies from this experience in the past, I'd like you to give us an insight really into the possibilities moving forward. So in the eventuality that Nigeria wins the case of fraud, that case of fraud is proven, what would that implication be for the company and for Nigeria also?
Well, my hope is that we'll be able to put in our points in respect of challenging the awards, and because we are making some serious allegations, and that could be a basis for setting aside the awards. And if that happens, that's a full reprieve for us. We're out of it. In respect of the case, well, it's a matter of for government to decide how to proceed. If government decides that there's some fraudulent things happened, has been alleged right now, then they could, because there's no limitation to criminal proceedings, they may consider criminal proceedings. They may also maybe consider going after that company for some form of damages, because some cost. Because whatever happens, even in conducting these proceedings, substantial costs are being and expenses being incurred by government. But that is further down the line. For me, the most important thing is to concentrate and get us out of this logjam that we're in right now. Yes.
And so when we return, you tell us, how do we get out of this economic logjam that we are in at the moment? That's when we return. Please stay with us. All right, let's talk about the economy. We've seen the recent increase in electricity tariff. We've seen that of the fuel price hike, and then the several tax increase, well, at least the 7.5% one. And then there's a huge question about the COVID funds getting to the SMEs and the private sector. I mean, some years ago, you did talk about how the economy, the informal sector, the private, which is about 85%, you were making some recommendations as to how to organize that sector. So tell us, haven't seen what is playing out economically now. What do you suggest that we do, either policy directive to ensure that at least the SMEs, which is a very important factor in an economy, doesn't take the hit as much in all of this?
First of all, the economy all over the world was already going down even before the COVID. Now we're all taking a heavy hit from it, and the pandemic has turned out to be an economic pandemic. Whether or not you get infected with the virus, you will find out that we're all going to be impacted negatively. What do? It's just a matter of, first of all, from my point of view, tweaking the policies that government has already put in place. If you check out today, there are several billions of naira already made available by CBN to fund certain aspects of the SME space in terms of agriculture, mining, doing businesses. They're going to gas and a lot of other things. But the process of delivering those funds to the SMEs is where the challenge is. And immediately the CBN made available the 50 billion COVID SME funding sometime, I think that was about April. I actually personally wrote to the president, President Buhari, about this. And within 48 hours, he directed the CBN to do certain things, to talk to the organized private sector, to talk to us. And they did. And the whole idea was that, look, we cannot use commercial banks' conditionalities to dispense and disburse this funding to the SMEs. We need to have, one, transparency in terms of the way it is disbursed. Two, we need to ensure that these monies get to those that really need it. And we suggested to CBN through the NASA Microfinance Bank that let the organized private sector guarantee their members. And there are quite a number of them. You have NASIMA, you have all the 36 or 40 chambers of commerce, you have NASI, you have NASMI. These are well-recognized bodies. But it was a tug of war for CBN for NASA especially, to really understand what we're talking about and to implement it. So today, that fund, the disbursement of that fund is grey. There's no clarity. And I really want to use this platform actually to challenge them to show to the public and to the government how those funds were disbursed. So the process of disbursement is a challenge. Even when government makes money available, it is very, very doubtful where this money gets to the people that needed it. That is one. So the process. The second thing is that we need to place the new fiscal regimes that are coming out, that is the tax and the charges, and all that. We need to put some form of moratorium on it. Now is the time to support businesses, to allow them to stabilize and to grow. Many companies are not operating, and those who are operating at half or less than half capacity. This has to happen. Farmers are not getting, farmers are not getting the right input, and they're not actually farming because of restriction of movement, because of the access to basic things they need. And to make matters worse, in some parts of the country, especially in the north, there's excess rain this year, so there's a lot of flooding. This will affect agricultural output, which also affects part of the value chain. In some parts of the southwest, there's no rain, so that's also indirectly be devastating to impact on agro output, and this will affect everything. You can see, for instance, that there's a huge contraction in the economy. Quarter one, quarter two, if you look at the figures, about 27% contraction, and we cannot expect quarter three to be better, or quarter four. So we're almost on the verge of another recession, and this will be added to the COVID. It's going to be huge, very, very negative. So government should review the process of engaging with the SMEs. The monies made available must be disbursed in the way that ensure that the people that really need it get it, and also ensure that these monies can come back, so it becomes a revolving fund. They should just not be funds that come and disappear into thin air. You must give it to people, the companies and individuals that are doing business in a way that they can be able to, with time, also refund this money so others can have access to it.
Okay,
so
if I can refer to...
That is a big challenge now.
Right. If I can refer to the first point you made about disbursement of the COVID funds. Now, you said that you had a meeting, really, with a representative of a CBN, and you said it was quite problematic. You said it was a tug of war and that it was grace. Just specifically regarding SMEs, are you saying that SMEs didn't quite get the funds as they should have? And I know you've talked about the challenges SMEs are facing at this time. You've said, some factories have had to close down. A lot of people are struggling, really. What is the current state of SMEs, at least under your purview?
Well, the challenge is real, and we all know that when with what has happened now, the small businesses will suffer more than every other person, and this is why these funds, I believe, were were made available. Now, we say that the process of disbursement is grey. I mean, it is not clear, it is not transparent, and we are challenging the Nassau Microfinance Bank that disbursed this in spite of directive from the government and from the CBN to work with the private sector, which they failed to do. They refused flatly to do it. They refused flatly. So I've thrown down the gauntlet on this point. This is what happened. And going forward, we should change the process of this. Work with the organized private sector so you can be sure exactly who got this funding, and also be sure that these funds can come back as a revolving fund so others can gain from it. You know, this is a key challenge, because if the funds come, it could be easy for people to re-energize their business, to try and get back on their feet. And this look, if the impact is going to be worse from the fourth quarter, you begin to see it. You know, it's going to be a lot of problems, and so not only that the funds that have been made available has not been properly disbursed, additional funds is needed. But I wouldn't even want to talk about additional funds when even the ones that have been made available has not been properly disbursed. So that is the main point that I can see. The other issue is really that the support, the fiscal support in terms of reduction, or let there be a moratorium about demanding charges, demanding government fees, and all those things that put pressure on the SMEs. You know.
Well, you talked about process the other time, and it's quite interesting how that comes to play, because process here would probably also speak again to government officials who have to disburse the funds, or at least execute the policies of governments from one administration to the other. Now, someone has said that sometimes the inefficiency of the civil service is because of political influence. Sometimes government appointees coming with their own staff, personal staff, senior advisors, special advisors, and special assistants, and all of that, and the one way or the other get in the way of the process. If you think there is any value to this, how do we navigate this in order to make the process, the system, tighter and more effective, and be able to deliver better results?
Well, I do agree that could be across the board, there could be interference here and there. But what we're saying is this: we cannot continue to do the same thing the same way every time and expect a different result. On this specific issue of what do we do for the SMEs, how do we reinvigorate our economy in this global economic pandemic that we have suggested that instead of using a bank, for instance, a microfinance bank like NASA, for instance, to disburse money for the whole of the country, for the whole of Nigeria. We are talking of more than 40, 50 million SMEs. Why not use their structure, the structure that already exists, a new way to do things, to make it better, to deliver? Use the chambers of commerce, use the Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, use the Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, use the Association of Traders. These are recognized, registered bodies that you can use to reach out to a lot of people easily. Use the Association of Farmers, cassava growers, and use those bodies, rather than you sit there in just one office and you are now disbursing funds throughout the country. How do you have that at the needed level of transparency? And I do not think this is a political thing. Actually, at least I must say it clearly, as I said, we wrote to the president, and within 48 hours, he has gotten the CBN to talk to us. And the CBN agreed, oh, don't worry, just give guarantee to your members, then this can be done. So there'll be transparency, there'll be impact, there will be effect, and also the possibility of making these funds revolving. But the Nassau Microfinance absolutely refused to do that.
Now, I mean, looking at the economic
and
indices.
let me tell you, I believe that if we could achieve this, we could also become part of the process and a better and more efficient process of government engaging with the private sector and with the SMEs.
Okay, speaking of government,
engine of economic growth.
Right, speaking of government, I mean, government is at different levels. Now, looking at the economic indices, Nigeria's economy shrank by 6.1% in Q2. But when you look at capital inflow, really, you see that only 6 states really got inflow into the country. The $1.29 billion that was, the figure that was released by the MBS, only 6 states. So we have Abuja, Lagos, and 4 other states. And we have 36 states in the country. So government at the state level also, they obviously have a lot of work to do regarding this. If they can't attract capital inflow, you wonder, what is the point then?
Well, you see, the issue of attracting foreign capital inflow is, for me, in a way, is like an elitist thing. You understand? There are some states that hardly ever attract such inflows, and if there are inflows, it will be local, because there's some, because the states are in different levels of stages of development. Some states are purely agrarian, and what they just want to do is to be able to take care of the farmers and the SMEs in the states. Okay, so it's not all of them. Very few states really are doing big business in terms of attracting foreign direct investment in that sense of the word. But if we have some funding, little funding coming to SMEs, if you aggregate it, it becomes part of inflow in a way, and also part of engine for growth, of to get things to begin to move positively. So it is not really, for me, in the circumstance in which we have found ourselves, really necessarily negative that some states are not attracting foreign inflow, because it's not every state that can do that. That we can divide Nigerian states into at least 3 groups. The first group is just maybe the 6 states you have mentioned, Lagos, maybe Kano, Port Harcourt, and so on. But there are some rural states, there are some states that are purely agrarian, and there are SME states purely, and not much is going on. Even though it is still, again, possible to get some things happening. For instance, last week, the governor of Ekiti State visited NEBSA. Now, Ekiti is one of the agrarian states that there's really no serious industries and so on. But the governor visited NEBSA and wanted to establish a special economic zone in areas that will enable him to bring knowledge and agriculture into play. So, you see, gradually you're building up something from the bottom, and that could lay the foundation for you to be able to attract serious investment. So it's a matter of, again, working with the private sector to see what to do. Let me give you an example. Take a state like Yobe or Bauchi. These are states that could do a lot in livestock, and livestock is big business. Okay, we lay the foundation, work with the private sector, put in the framework. I'm not saying you spend the money because you don't have it, but I agree that, look, we'll designate 2,000 hectares of land for livestock development, the livestock value chain. Just put it there. Talk to the private sector. You can then find out that there'll be inflows of investment into that sector. But you just fold your arms, cross your legs, and hope that you get some inflow. It's not going to happen, especially now that there's scarcity of funds all over the world. The economy of the world is contracting. Even the countries that have these funds are also having their own challenges. But whatever happens, some things, life continues and the economy must continue to move. So
all right,
whatever it is our strength.
Okay. Let's wind down with this then, taking you back to the P&ID. I know you spoke a lot about us domesticating arbitration here, but there are many who will wonder, is it really about us domesticating arbitration, or is it about the attitude of governments to submission to judgments that may have come from judiciary, especially when you hear governments talk about judiciary being the problem? So do you think that foreign companies trust a judicial proceedings or process enough to submit to those proceedings if you were to domesticate some of them here?
But Chamberlain, the point I'm making is this. there's litigation and there's arbitration. Arbitration being an aspect of ADR. When parties have an agreement, they decide whether they should use the courts or they will use some form of ad hoc or institutional arrangement. It could be mediation, it could be conciliation, it could be arbitration. So whatever you have agreed in your contract, my point is that essentially we should always insist that we want the arbitration done here, unless there's a dispensation by the Attorney General, if it's government. What I'm saying is that it should not be a matter of course that arbitrations must take place outside Nigeria. Look, some years back, I was involved in an arbitration where all the parties are Nigerians, Nigerian government, agencies, Nigerian companies, and they put arbitration in London. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Nobody does things like that. So that is one. Two, as I said, trusting our courts has nothing to do with the point I'm making. Whether you trust our courts or you don't trust our courts, so far you are fixed that you are going to do ADR, you can still do it here. Now, but as I said, again, things are beginning to change because now we are doing arbitration online. So the cost of going to London and all this may also not be a serious problem anymore. You can sit down here and do your arbitration, whether it's fixed in London or anywhere online. But the second issue is taking proceedings more seriously. When you have either a case in court or in arbitration, government agencies must be very, very serious about it, because it's not casual, because it will have serious implications if you don't take it seriously.
All right, then that's a fine place to let it go. Prince Adetokunbo Kayode, CON, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, and former Minister of Defense as well. Thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.